Logistic model for dummies. Is that too corny? Still leave it on that. Now, there is a serious formula for this. Oh, I call it serious formula. And there's two simplistic formulas. They're really the same formula anyway. But if you look at our textbook writer here in WA, he writes it in a certain form. And when I look on the internet, I find other people do the same. But on our formula sheet here in Western Australia, when I say WA, it's got a complicated version of it. This I'm going to call Logistic model for dummies. We're not doing the complicated version because the proof is just more fiddly, annoying and horrible. So, guys, now what's killing me is I want to keep this short. That's impossible. Impossible to keep it short. So let's talk about, first of all, if we had population growth anywhere, any time, you know, you might start with 10 people or whatever it is you've got, or 10 insects, anything, and you know, you're expecting it's going to go like that. What's that called? Exponential growth. And the rate of change of that is what? Well, we talk about that, you know, which way do we write it? We write it usually as KP, a factor of the population. So if we had 100 people in a country town and they were growing at 3%, 0.03. If we had 1 million people in the town and they were growing at 3%, still 0.03. So the 100 people would get an extra 3 people per year, 1 million people would get
30,000.
30%, yeah, 30,000 extra people. Well, that's great. I like that. Now, that's what I like having in there. And so, how do we, if we turn that, we did it yesterday, you guys, differential equation back into a non-differential equation, in other words, remove the rate of change out of it. What's it become? P equals P naught e to the P2. Problem, this will just keep growing and growing. We want a situation. Now I'm going to preempt the whole over here, which is a bit strange, but I think I like it. If we know, and we have a limiting factor called K, we always talk about K, everyone talks about K. I'm going to preempt at the moment that that's going to be A and B. Now, if I know that there's 20,000 people living on an island, that's my favourite, 20,000 people living on an island. And some people turn up with a virus, or some of the people get a virus. Very contemporary talking about a virus, okay? So 10 people have a virus. Can it go above 20,000? No, so that's the carrying capacity, the limiting factor, the limit of what we can do for the whole thing. So what we're wanting the graph to do, so let's say 10 people turn up, it's very hard to draw 10 when that's 20,000, but down here somewhere we've got 10. We want it to come up here like that and come across to there. Okay? There's a lot of ways to look at that and see what we're going to do. Now, the way I'm going to approach it, just like we did here, and I want to think about for a second, yeah, I'm just going to call it AP minus BP squared. And that's our differential equation. Means nothing to you, meant nothing to me when I first saw it and had to figure out what's going on. So as the population is getting bigger, it's going to affect what? It's going to affect the rate of change. Now look what's happening here. The rate of change is a gradient. The gradient on this one gets steeper, 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 steeper. The gradient this one gets steeper, 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 and then all of a sudden it starts to get less steep. And over time we're wanting the gradient to become basically what? Flat.
You are raising it though.
Oh, flat. And flat is, thank you for that. I'll leave that probably on there as well. We want it to become flat, which is a gradient of?
0.
0. Thank you. Nice clear thinking you got there. So we want to rearrange that into the equation that we want, which is a general solution. So this is what we talk about here, the general solution. Now I'm thinking about, this is one case where I need to show you where we're going before we do it. Okay? Radical for me for teaching. Well, some of them will say it, but usually I'd rather have that moment when you go, I got it, that's what it is. This one I'm going to write up what it is. Population is, let me think which way I'm going to write it. I'm going to write it that way. A on, yes, I'm going to go that. B plus C e to the minus AT. Interesting, it's got an A there and an A there. Okay, that is the solution to that. And I want to derive that in a moment. But that form of it, it's a little bit harder to derive. I'll show you why in a moment. But look at what goes on here. If I get that and I divide everything by B, if I say I've got A on B, and I've got B on B, and I've got C e to the minus AT on B, what have I done? Divide everything by
B.
By the way, that's the same as multiplying by 1 on B on 1 on B, which is timesing by 1, which I nag about and nag about and nag about. Did I overthink that when I first did it? No, just divide everything by B. Now we've written up here that the limiting quantity, the limiting number that we're going to go to is A on B. So that A on B there is just K, which is pretty powerful. Because in a moment we want to derive it and have the 20,000 being there. And if it isn't there, I've mucked up. And then you can say I've made a silly mistake. If you didn't pick up on the way, what's B on B? 1. And then C on B is just another constant. A lot of people use a capital C, you could use C2 or whatever you want it to be. E to the minus AT. So in this form here, we know the A, we know the B. The A and the B will give us K. In this form we know the K and we know the A, and we can figure out the B. That form is what we want to head for, but first of all we're going to derive that form. We're going to have a bit of fun and games for that. You okay?
Yeah.
And see how I wrote that like that?
No, K can be a constant.
Look up here. When I wrote that like that, 2 out of the last 6 or 3 out of the last 6 waste papers had that written differently. They took out P as a common factor. So if the waste has it written in the other form, I just have to expand the brackets and get it back to
So
this
it's
form.
PA minus BT.
Yeah. So that's where we're heading. So I'm going to write up here that we're heading for K over 1 plus CE. Oh God, now this is going to use everything we've learned. Okay, an island has, it's all idealistic, has 20,000 people. Yeah. And 10 people. So how we put in the words?
Infected.
Are infected with a virus? Are infected with a virus? So what do we got? The rate of change is going to be AP minus BP squared. But we know that K equals A over B. That's that A, whatever it's going to be there. So I started making up, this is a true situation. I just said to myself, I'll call that a half. What would that have to be? K is 20,000. A is a half on B. So what do we got? B equals a half on 20,000. Are you quick enough with that? A half divided by 20,000 is? That's 20,001, so it's a half times by 1 on 20,000, which is?
1 over 40,000.
1 on 40,000. You go, what? You're okay with that? So that one becomes 1 on 40,000. Pretty yucky numbers. Okay, so how do we turn that from a differential equation into a non-differential equation? Take the integral of both sides. Right? But we have to separate the variables before we take the integrals of both sides. So if I try to put that to P over here, yuck. If I put that to T over here, that's horrible. So what's wrong with this?
Take out the half.
Yucky fraction.
If you take out the half.
There's a better way than that. Let's have a look at it this way first of all. That's P on 2. What's that?
Yeah, squared on
40,000. How do you add fractions? Lowest common denominator. What's the shortcut way? Cross multiply. And because it's subtraction, we must start there. We start there, but it's the same thing. That times that is
40,000 people.
so far so good, and that times that is
2t squared.
And that times that is. Problem with that method is, now we've got to simplify that fraction. They're all even. So what can you do when they're all even?
Divide by 2.
Divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2. So we've got 20,000 p minus p squared on 40,000. A little bit better. Numbers are yucky. We've got d p dt is that. Now can we separate the variables?
Yes.
I can go times dt, and I've got the letters the wrong way around. So I don't want dt on the bottom, I want dt on the top. So now we're going to go upside down. So I go over to here. Now, the waste exam here in Western Australia did actually have a question where they gave you bits of it and you had to finish the rest. But only 1 year. Okay? Only the 1 year. And by the way, most of the years they had the equation in that form. It wasn't in the form of what's on the waste formula sheet that we have written here on our sheet. So that's why I'm calling for dummies. It's just the first part. Let's get it going. I might have part 2 one day. We'll see what happens. So turn it upside down. Help me, Finn. Can you read out what to put on the top?
So dt over, oh sorry, I've already started.
40,000?
40,000 over 20,000 p minus p squared. 220.
Yeah, now I can go. I can leave the t on that side. See how this is going to get so long, guys? And you know, I just don't want to make long videos, but we've got no choice. How you going for a Friday afternoon? You're looking good. You're looking a bit tired.
Yeah.
So this is 40,000 on 20,000. The numbers are crazy, but I actually like them, DP. Now we just go in the raw interval. And we can do the question. And you go, no, I can't. Is that too crazy? No, I can't.
You can.
Why? We want to turn this into 2 logarithms, into 2 natural logarithms. So, we want to do that.
Okay, next.
What's that going to be called?
U.
Partial fractions.
The other day I was nagging you about partial fractions, knowing that this was coming. What do we have? Now I'm going to do it, people have so many ways, I'm going to do it my way. Oh, it's not my way, everyone else does it this way as well. So what do we got there? Common factor of? P outside of?
20,000 minus p.
20,000 minus P, and we want to break that into A over P. What's the variable we're using, by the way? P. For most questions we're going to have a P or an N, most of them for P for population. Q. Okay, what's the other one?
20,000 minus p.
Plus B on 20,000 minus P. Now, I'm going to practice what I preach if I times by that. And there might be a few people watching and go, ah, that was better. My brain connects on that one. No mistakes? If I times that one by that, I've got to times this by P 20,000. And I've got to times that way by P 20,000. I don't want to go too far though, minus P. What happens? Crosses out, we're left with 40,000. You guys okay with that? So what's this one become? Jake, look up for me. P's cancel. And we've got 20,000 A minus AP. Yeah. Cross them out and we've got plus BP. And I'm going to say here, equate the constants. I'm going to be fussy. Try not to go too fast but too slow. Equate the constants. That's got the variable. That's got the variable. That hasn't got the variable, which is P.
A and B equal 2.
So we simply have that 40,000 equals 20,000 A, so A equals 2. You're right with that?
And B equals 2 because it's a 0 p.
If I said it properly, what I'm going to say, equate the coefficients of P. So what's the coefficient of P over here?
0.
0. So you've got 0. What's the trap? It does throw people off. And over here is minus A plus B. So in other words, A equals B. So we now automatically know that B equals. So I can go back to here with my partial fractions. Integral of 1 dt equals the integral of
2 on p
Got it.
plus 2 on 20,000 minus p.
Yeah. And that's going to have a dp. So what's the integral of 1 using t? T. And now we're talking about we don't need negative logs. We don't need the logs of a negative. So what have I got? 2LNP. I don't need to write absolute value because we're not going backwards in time. We're starting from that point onwards. Now this one will be, and what's the trap? What's the trap, Alex?
Divide by the derivative of the inside.
Of 20,000 minus P divided by the derivative of the inside, which turns that into a negative. Let's take forever. Alright, let's tidy that up and put the variable on the left hand side. By the way, I want to halve everything. So if I halve that, I'm just left with LNP. And I've got to subtract because of that. When I halve that, I end up with an ln of
20,000 minus P.
Got it. And am I going to leave this? I'm going to leave that as equals. That'll be halved as well. T on 2. T on, oops, that's a bit weird, right? T on 2, and I'm just going to put the constant on the other side. Why? Because I can. What do we do with logs when we're dividing?
Minus from each other.
So I talk about the potty rule. A plus on the outside, a times on the inside. So that's when I talk about SODI, which I don't really memorise, it's just potty. I subtract on the outside is a
Divide.
by the inside. So we just got the ln of P on 20,000 minus P. You okay with that?
Mm.
So this is T on 2 plus C. I could have written it as half T. Maybe it'd be better if I did write it as a half T. Yeah. What do we do when we've got log form? How do we change into non-log form, exponential form, index form? So this is the log base E. I push the E out, E to the half T plus C. You right with that? And I'm left with this. So we've removed the log out of the situation. Yeah? So what have we got now? This is now P on 20,000 minus P. I'm laughing at myself. E to the half T times what? E to the C.
It is a constant.
You okay with that? Those two just become, a times becomes a plus, or a plus becomes a times. And I can call that a constant, whatever I want it to be. I can call it P naught if I wanted. Let's say we call it A. P on 20,000 minus P equals A E to the half T. Not bad.
So what do we do now?
Swap it upside down. In our textbook here it says, and you can rearrange that into that. You ready? The process of doing that is, go upside down. Imagine no one told you this, and you have to figure it out for yourself. 1 on A E to the half T. So I could write that as, what could I write it as? 20,000 minus P on P equals 1 on A E to the.
Half T.
So if I move that from the bottom to the top,
Negative half T.
negative a half T. Now what can I do? Split the fraction. 20,000. Now you imagine if you hadn't seen this before. I struggled with it. I had to think of it for a while when I hadn't seen it before.
So minus 1.
So 20,000 on P minus 1 equals 1 on A, either minus a half T. And if I add 1 to each side, 20,000 on P equals 1 on A e to the minus KT plus 1.
Half T. Half T.
Problem.
Half T, okay.
Yes, thank you. Half there. Now problem if we turn that upside down, we got 20,000. So I've got 1 plus 1 on A e to the minus a half T. Yeah. Times both sides by 20,000. And here's our formula. 20,000.
The A on top.
1 plus some new constant we're going to call C. Who cares what it is? It's 1 on A. E to the minus a half T. And that's where we're heading for up there.
Okay.
And 20,000 originally I said was K. So there we've got the form of K. Now we could have done it all with variables and not with numbers. Now we've got 1 plus some constant C, and where'd the half come from? Right back in the beginning. I said to you that A was a half.
Oh.
And then we figured out the B was 1 on 40,000 if I remember right.
Oh, fun.
So now we've got that formula we wanted there, but we've got it numerically, not in general form.
Okay.
But you still need what that C is. Okay? So that's where that formula comes from. And where did that formula come from? You remember what it was? A on B plus C, E to the minus A C.
You figure out C.
So we've got, yes, you can absolutely put numbers in and figure out what it is.
Should we?
So there's our two forms of it that I call logistic model for dummies. Before I forget, I want to nag about this. That halfway point is an inflection point. And how high up is that? Halfway between 0 and 20,000. So just always remember that that point there is always halfway out of that. And for a moment, if we went back to here for a second, what if if t approaches infinity, what happens to this population? I need a bit of room for it. Let's take a few seconds. And
P
do that.
approaches 20,000.
Yes. So I move that there. We'll have the population as t approaches infinity would be the 20,000 on 1 plus c e to the 0 to the minus infinity.
I want to tell you what C is. Sorry, C is.
So again,
I don't know what C is.
so it doesn't matter what c is
I'll send you an order.
because you've got a 20,000 1 plus c on e to the infinity. What's e to the infinity?
Very, very high.
0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So that's approaching 0. So we've got 20,000 on 1 plus 0. So that's approaching k. Beautiful. So two things to remember. Halfway up is the inflection point always. Halfway between there and there. And then as you approach infinity, that becomes, that little bit there becomes 0 and you've got k. Done?